my love and I took it down. Climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills till the landslide brought it down. Mirror in the sky, what is...
Hi everybody, welcome back. You might have noticed I haven't got back to the storyline of the trip or my time in South Africa lately. I've been on these little road trips going to see Boer War monuments. A lot of fun. In fact, today I met a historian in Kyneton that's going to be scanning and collecting some information for me on local men that went to the Boer War. And yesterday the author, Noel Davis, came over to see me and he signed my book. But anyway, that's the Boer War stream. This is more about the time in Gladstone Avenue now. And I do have a couple of updates for you. We've been trying to get Brian Gould, my compadre of crime, to come on stream and do an interview. Proving to be quite difficult. Remembering that at the moment South Africa only has, they have these things called load shedding. So for 2 hours at a time they have no power, and that might happen 3 times a day. They give you a program or a time when your district will be without power, and that can happen, as I said, 3 times a day. So that's proving difficult, but also his phone isn't working with Zoom, so that's another issue. But we're going to try. But we've got lined up this Sunday Agnes, old friend Aggie, who was very kind to myself in Gladstone Avenue. She was engaged to my brother. She's a Scottish heritage, so hopefully she's going to be interviewed on Sunday. She'll have some great memories of seeing Void in the early days of the halls and the churches around Brakpan. So I said to you last time that I had started Brakpan High. And there's one event comes to mind straight away when I think about Brakpan High. Traumatic, but I think far-reaching, as you'll find out. Strange thing about Brakpan High is if you were to get onto Facebook and have a look, there was actually a Brakpan High survivors Facebook group of people waxing lyrically wonderfully about Brakpan High, the best years of their lives and the fun and the happiness. And I suppose school years could and should be seen in that light, but they weren't for me. Brakpan High was a scary place. The big halls, the echoes, the corridors, and the teachers, but primarily the principal. So if the capital punishment in Brenthurst was bad, it went up a notch in Brakpan High. They were no longer hitting us on the backs of the legs. They were taking our pants down, bending us over desks and caning us on the buttocks. And the fear that enveloped me, and one time coming out of the principal's office, I'd urinated myself, and the kids that were lined up to be caned, you can imagine how I copped it for that. But this incident doesn't involve a caning. So what would happen was there'd be lots of inspections in the grand old hall of Brakpan High. There'd be school assemblies and inspections and talks. And I remember us all being in the hall and lined up in our individual classes and years. The memories I have are almost like a Nazi rally at Nuremberg, with the banners hanging down the side of the stage, and I'm sure it was nothing like that, but that's how I remember it. And this girl was brought up on stage to be told in front of the school that she was pregnant and she was to be expelled, and she was marched off the stage crying and sobbing, and escorted off the property by one of the teachers. That's how they dealt with things. Anyway, it must have been my first year there. So in 1974, we were trying to grow our hair long. It's hard to describe to you what my hair meant to me back then, and even now, but especially back then, it meant a great deal. And remembering I came from Australia, where we were liberal. We could grow our hair reasonably long at school. We wore jeans, we wore t-shirts. My hair meant a lot to me. Now, it had been cut at Brenthurst at primary. They made sure that you didn't have anything approaching, long hair. But at Brackpan High, they seemed to take it up to another level. And for a number of, for a while, myself and the Heralds and Brian Gould and Moffat, kids I was hanging around with, we started sweeping our hair behind our ears. Now, your hair wasn't allowed to touch your ears, and the back wasn't allowed to touch the collar of your shirt. We wore white shirts, a candy stripe tie, candy stripe blazer, grey flannel pants, and of course polished shoes. All of those were open to inspection at any time. Now, when I went to Brackpan High, I think Dad might have bought me my own blazer, but I started wearing Aiden's old hand-me-down blazer, which was a bit too long for me. The sleeves sort of hang down a bit, and there was a bit of writing that I detected, but I preferred Aiden's old beaten-up blazer to mine, I think. Anyway, on this morning, we thought we got away with it. You wet your hands and you're slicking the hair back. Arnie, my mate, he developed a bit of a David Bowie, a bit of a quiff at the front. I was very envious of him. How do you do that? He had this Bowie sort of quiff at the front, and he was blonde. So we were starting to experiment with trying to grow hair. So anyway, all the girls were dismissed, and that smelled trouble. And the teacher said, you over that side of the hall, girls, you go into class. And then we were lined up, by class. So the teacher came along, and he was sort of doing this, and he ended up with half a dozen of us, and I was one of them. And you boys, you go and stand in the corner. We shall organise the transport. Mr. Van Rensburg, call the front office and organise a transport for these boys. So there we were, shaking. I was pretty nervous to be taken to the school barber, or the barber, and I'll never forget it. We were bundled onto this minivan, and we were driven down for Prince George Avenue, I think, to the school barber. And when we got there, were these old boers sitting around, Afrikaner, old men with overalls, and sitting reading the paper. They all had the brill-creamed hair and neat and tidy, and reading newspapers like women did in those old days, where they had the hair dryers on, and they'd all sit in a long line, they'd be gossiping. That's what these men were doing. And they saw us being trooped in, and I'll never forget this. So they see me, and they said in Afrikaans, "Hy lyk soos sy ma, maar hy pipi soos sy pa," which means he looks like his mother, but he pisses like his father. Why did I remember that? And why did I, at the time, I felt a surge of pride in me that I looked like my mum. I felt this was a good thing. I didn't have long to process those sorts of feelings, because I was plopped up on the chair. The teacher was standing in the corner watching us, and I had the closest to a number one I've ever had. I don't know how I got out of school then, because I went round to the bakery from the barber. Whether I ran away or whether I told them I felt sick or something. I did feel sick. I felt sick to my stomach. I went round to Dad's bakery, and I was crying my eyes out. And he was saying, look, it'll grow back, and don't worry about it. And, they're a bunch of bastards, and that sort of thing. So when I went back to school, we had this Greek lady who was Mrs. Papadopoulos, something like that, or Miss. Actually, she was a young teacher and she taught us English. She was as close to modern as Brackpan High had in those days. So I walked past her class and she saw me and she said, "Oh, come in." She didn't have any kids at the class, she was just marking reports or something. She saw me walk by and she sat me down and she said, "Oh my God, what have they done to you?" I said, "Yeah, they took me to the school bar," but she says, "That's just so wrong. But, it'll grow back." And so I got some sympathy and kindness from her, and, once again, I've never forgotten that. So yeah, the people on Facebook that have fond, happy memories of Brackpan High, I don't. But I did meet some good kids there, and we got into a fair amount of mischief, as you're going to find out. I don't want to reveal too much about the hitchhiking trip to Durban that Brian and I took, because I'd like Brian to come online and reminisce with you about it as well. And I haven't forgotten the Electric Birth, the band Brian and I started. I want him to share the memory with me as well, so I don't want to sort of start telling you half the story and then have him fill it in. So that's just one memory of Brackpan High. Another quick one that I want to give you, but I think it was Brenter's, and it affected me. They sprung a sports day on us one time. We were lined up, there was a track oval, there was grandstands or bleachers, the Americans call them. The kids all sat there, they said, "Carter, you're running the 500 metres. I said, "I got no shorts, I got no runners." "Yeah, don't worry about that, you're just going to run, you just run. Run like the wind." I said, I don't think I can," but "No, you can, you're standing there, get ready." So I took my shoes off, I was in my school pants, long pants, and we were lined up, and they took off like whippets, these other kids, and I'm just going my best, but I've never been a runner, and I was so slow that by the time I was coming around, the kids on the grandstands were roaring with laughter and rolling around with laughter. So I just jogged to a stop and finished out and walked it. And I've never forgotten the humiliation of that, and the teachers, "You're useless, Carter, you're useless." What a way to be taught, eh? How to instill confidence in children. And my parents have never raised their hands at me. They never resorted to violence, and yet these teachers saw it as an everyday occurrence. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. So if you're waiting for more episodes of the trip, they're coming. We got Aggie this weekend, I hope, and Brian Gould, when he sorts out how to use his phone, he will join us as well. So I look forward to that. Thanks for hearing the story. Stick with it, and nice to see you again. Bye.